I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today I want to talk about Obama being summoned to try to help the Democrats win in Virginia, which I assume is probably a bad sign for them if they need to summon the great one. But I think it's interesting, and someone else that pointed this out, like, I just think it's funny that they want Obama to help try to defeat a black woman when he was lecturing black men about not voting for Kamala Harris or supporting her enough. And yeah, that is actually very interesting. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. Go back in time from not too long ago and play clips of Obama lecturing black men how they felt about it. And then look at some of the stuff about Winsome Sears, because I remember when they ran the race and won the first time around with Youngkin, and her speech was just amazing. I'm like, who is this woman? Like, I thought just some of the stuff she said was so inspiring and really, really the right attitude that Black Americans ought to have about this country and not give in to grievance culture and things like that. So I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about Mark Ruffalo, and a clip of him is circulating talking about how we needed like a different economic system and get rid of like capitalism, which I think is very interesting when his job is to play pretend. That's his job. Like he plays a lot of different roles, but one of them that's the biggest that he's done is playing the Incredible Hulk, in the Marvel movies, and those movies obviously have made a lot of money, and it just seems like a really whack thing to complain about when you've done so well and other people are doing so well, and to hate on people who are richer than you when you yourself are richer than so many other people. So I want to chit chat about that. And also Trump talking about IVF to try to make it cheaper. And I don't know who's having chit chats with him, but there's a lot of folks in the pro-life community that do not feel that IVF is pro-life. And I know that's still very controversial, but I want to talk about it a little bit. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blackteens.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream. And run my website, all that good stuff you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available at blackteennews.com. Like different t-shirts and mugs and so on. So if you guys want to support, you guys can look at that stuff. You guys can also check out some of the different books that I've written, like Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. That's one of my nonfiction books. I also have, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That's available. And I've got lots of books. Most of my books are fiction books. And I do have my new release of Bigger, which is still available for pre-order. So you guys can go to my book website, which is, if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, there's a link that'll take you to a page where you guys can pre-order this from my website, and I will send it to you nice and signed and so on. The actual release date is on the 28th, so I'm very much looking forward to that, and hope you guys really, 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 really enjoy it. My sister posted, she did an R.S. Smith like ad like for it the other day, which was really good. Today she posted like a Jordan Peterson video, like psychoanalyzing the dinosaur, the story, what it means. And so she's a young woman, so she doesn't sound quite like Jordan Peterson, like can't nail the accent, but a lot of his mannerisms and things that he says, like she did a very good job. And people are like, how can her account not be bigger? I don't know. I don't know, but it's a really cool video. So I think I'm probably going to repost it later when I get the chance, but I encourage you guys to check that out. Also, you guys can sign up for the painting party. The link is in the description as well if you want to do it online, or if you want to do it in person. You guys can sign up for that too if you live in Oakland County sort of area or are close to it in Michigan. And so Tina is going to teach us how to paint a painting, and the in-person one is going to be like a American flag, like amongst like a sunset. It's a really nice picture. And then the other one is going to be like a winter scene where there's all these trees, and then in the center there's going to be like a Christmas tree. So I thought we'd do something seasonal. I thought it was kind of late in the fall to start kind of doing another fall one. So I'm like, people might want this up in their house because people start, getting ready for Christmas pretty early. So I thought it might be nice if we did something seasonal. So it'll be really cool. So I encourage you guys to check that stuff out. Thank you to those of you who are watching live and to those who are watching back. And again, if you want to support Black Teen News, you guys can go to the website and support that way. And it also helps when you guys, like, I know things are tight and this economy and stuff, but if you just comment, that helps with the algorithm, and you share and you're like, hey, you should check out Black Teen News, and share the different videos that I post. All that does really help. So thank you to those of you who do those things. Okay, so I want to start off chit-chatting about Obama. So the Virginia Democrats are so silly. If you remember when Glenn Youngkin was running, there was a big scandal that popped off about the boy in Loudoun County who went in the girls' bathroom. He had a skirt and stuff, and the school board meetings, and the dad had showed up with his daughter, excuse me, was sexually assaulted, and the superintendent's like, I don't know anything about that, and he went, ape, and then they put that like in the news and stuff, and Daily Wire like really broke the story. It became a scandal, like a national scandal. But the Democrat who was running, they tried to make it seem like Glenn Youngkin was a racist, and they had hired people. I guess it was the Lincoln Project who I guess took credit for it, but they had guys show up on and go to a Youngkin bus with tiki torches, and they tried to like emulate the Unite the Right rally. But it was the Democrats who were doing that. I'm like, y'all paid a black man to dress up like a white supremacist? Like, I would never. How much did they pay him to do that? And so they just looked so silly and all that. So anyway, Youngkin ended up winning. And of course, Winsome Sears is lieutenant governor. So she's running for governor herself. I suspected that she would probably do that. And Obama has been summoned, I suppose, to cut an ad for her opponent because they want to win, obviously. But I think it's funny that when Kamala was running, it was very important for Black people to support Kamala. And now this Black person, Obama, who's a Black president, is like, oh, support this white woman over this Black woman. And I'm not saying we have to make things about race, but these people make things about race all the time. And so I did a video about a week or so ago just talking about how people who talk about how we need to listen and affirm to Black people don't usually mean it, because if it's a Black person they don't agree with, they throw that out of the window. It's funny how people on the left, they talk about race as if it's so important, but they're willing to, again, throw that out of the window if people don't jive with their ideology. And you know what? I think that if you want to separate yourself and say, okay, you may be Black, but I don't support you based off of your ideology, I think that's fine, because we should be, talking about ideas and judging people off the content of their character and not just supporting them because they are Black. But they pretend like being Black is so much, I don't know, like there's a moral superiority, or just maybe not so much a moral superiority, but I guess being white, they feel like is just a bad thing. I guess is a better way to put it. And so I don't think there's anything inherently bad about being white or inherently good about being Black. I think you just got to look where the policies are. But if they want to play that game, then we can play this game and talk about it. And I do think people on the right who pretend like race isn't a big deal, and it's not a big deal, but I noticed that people pay attention to it on the right. And like, I mean, there was a Black Voices for Trump office, and they had those t-shirts, and they talk about minorities and all that stuff all the time. So and they try to do the outreach and build the coalitions and make certain appeals and they have different departments where they have those different coalitions. So everyone is aware that people kind of group themselves differently. And you know what? Just something that I don't even know that's going to break anytime soon is, black people do see their race as being central to their identity. It's like 85% of black people feel like that, as opposed to like white people, it's like 15%. So there is like just frankly a different way that we think. um, so when you do the game of politics, you do need to coalition build. So I just think it's funny how I think it's a bigger deal to Republicans than they pretend. And race with the Democrats, they make it seem like it's such a big deal, but they're willing to obviously throw that out the window if, again, if you don't agree with them. So it's not actually as special as they pretend that it is. And then they'll be super mad if you're black and call you a traitor and really really try to discredit you. So people, I don't know, don't even want to listen to your arguments. You're just a traitor. So anyway, let's look at this video from Obama, supporting. Oh, let me first share my screen, uh and then we shall start going down memory lane a bit. And it's a good thing that he did lecture all these black men about voting for Kamala, because it really made him look bad. The 2024 campaign made Obama look really bad, whether it was him lying about the Very Fine People hoax, which was funny that someone like Joe Rogan was like, I really admired Obama, and then I saw him lie. It's like, yeah, Obama lied a lot while he was president. I'm glad that you finally caught him in one, but he's always lied. But that is a pretty egregious lie, especially one that's been debunked time and time and time and time again. But Democrats still push it though. I've seen a lot of Democrats still on different lives try to push the Very Fine People hoax, but Obama's smart enough to know that has been debunked. Anyway, let's watch his ad and then we'll go down memory lane.
Hey, New Jersey, this is Barack Obama, and I want to talk to you about my friend.
Oh, sorry, that is the wrong ad. Sorry. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Oops. Whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsie. But they are trotting him out. Maybe they don't have the ad yet. I feel silly. Here we go. This is the right one. Sorry. Here's the right one. Oops, blooper.
Virginia's elections are some of the most important in the country this year, and I am proud to endorse Abigail Spanberger for governor. Republican policies are raising costs on working families so billionaires can get massive tax cuts. As governor, Abigail will stand up for Virginia families. She'll work to build an economy that works for everyone, not just big corporations and the wealthy. But it won't happen without you. Every vote counts, so turn out and vote for Abigail Spanberger for governor on November 4th.
Okay. So there's Obama's ad, short. And I guess he cut a couple different ones for different candidates. How many he's got on this thread? 1, 2. I guess there's a 2 there. And then of course he cut one for Prop 50 in California, which we talked about the other day. So Abigail, I think, is being really brought down because of the Jay Jones scandal. And I don't know what Virginia's going to do. They've made the right choice before. We'll see if they can make another right choice. But Jay Jones, of course, got caught up in that scandal of him tweeting about, he would piss on the graves of Republican colleagues, that he wanted, that he would shoot the speaker in the Virginia delegation. like if it was between Hitler and the Republican and then like another dictator, that he would shoot the Republican twice. And that he wanted his wife to watch their children die. And doubled down on it, saying, he called them little fascists, thought they were raising little fascists, but he believed that if they saw their children die, that they would change their minds about certain policies, which isn't even the case. There are people who lose their loved ones due to gun violence and still believe in the Second Amendment and and will maybe be more gung-ho about it. I used to not like the idea of teachers having firearms in schools, and to the Uvalde thing, because I'm like, what if something happens if the teachers have the guns and people are going to use that to really try to go after the Second Amendment? And after Uvalde, I'm like, these people stop these parents from going in and saving their kids. These people were just in the school, were just sitting ducks while this crazy person that should have tipped off somebody, because there were certainly red flags about that guy. I'm like, but they were just left to die. Like I'm like, no, teachers, not just to protect the students, but I'm just like, they have a right to defend themselves in that kind of situation. And then I found out that there are teachers who actually do carry across the country in their classrooms, and I'm not aware of any like AWOL teacher, going chitty chitty bang bang or something like that. So I'm like, oh, okay, my mind has been changed on that. So now I'm more pro gun on that issue. So just because something, and granted, that didn't happen to me, that was something that I observed and I watched, but if I were in that situation, I'm sorry, I hit the mic. I would assume that I would still hold that position, and perhaps stronger than I do. Because I don't want the teachers to feel like they're, just waiting to die. So, his thought process isn't even sound, but it is violent. And again, he doubled down on it. And people have said it was wrong. He did like apologize, but he hasn't resigned. There haven't been a lot of Democrats who called for him to step down. And even with the Republican like leaked chat stuff, people are like, well, why don't you denounce this? Actually, the Virginia Democrats was like, Winsome Sears, she hasn't said anything about it. And she's like, okay, I denounce what they said in the chats. I think they should all step down. What about, okay, now it's your turn, Abigail. Like, tell Jay Jones to step down. And it's like, you guys just walked into that rake. You walked into that rake. That chat with I understand they're trying to do whataboutism, or trying to shift the attention somewhere else, the focus somewhere else. But those chats are not worse than Jay Jones, especially because he wants to be the top prosecutor of the state. So I don't live in Virginia, but man, please do not let this person become the Attorney General of Virginia. It's just so bad with the text and his feelings, and people will not be able to believe that they can get real justice from someone like that. His job is to protect the people of Virginia, not to just go after Trump, which he mentioned Trump a lot. Like, I think it was like, I don't know, 38 times in an hour debate or something like that. It's, he should not get that position, but he's like dragging the ticket now. Okay. And I don't know if Obama can save her or not, but someone today pointed out, let me see if I can find that tweet really quick so I can give credit to the tweet, because I believe I retweeted it. Yeah. Someone said, now that Barack Obama has endorsed the white woman over the black woman, I can't help but think about when he was stumping for Kamala Harris and shaming black men for not supporting her. Did he decide that lived experience is no longer necessary in a candidate? Now, Democrats, they love their lived experience. Come on. He didn't suddenly just throw that out. But the most important thing is that white woman is a Democrat and this black woman is a Republican. And I've heard some Democrats even mention that they think that a woman president is more likely to be a Republican. Um, and I would think a black woman is more likely to probably be president if they're a Republican woman or whatever. Um, and I'm sure she'll get called coon and all kinds of different stuff from the left. But let's just go down memory lane for a second and recall Obama, demeaning these black men or lecturing them. And then we're going to watch a little reaction video just so you guys remember how people felt about it.
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that
I'm sorry, I saw a comment that said no sound. Is there it seems like other people are hearing me fine and people are watching, so I'm assuming there's sound because otherwise I don't know if there's an issue on Facebook. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to stop it for a second, but to make sure it's okay. YouTube says someone from YouTube says they have sound. There's people liking it. I only see one person saying something about the sound. Was there an issue with the other video that I played where there was a sound issue? Because I'm not sure when that was a few minutes ago. Okay, well, it seems to be okay. Someone says they're on Facebook and they hear. Okay, all right, I'll keep going.
when you have
Thank you.
a choice that is this clear,
Hmm.
when on the one hand you have somebody who
And he's gonna say it so clear, and I just watched this before I played for you guys, but just he's not gonna mention policy about the choice is so clear. It's gonna be all emotional appeals to this person is like you.
grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. He's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
Oh, she's just done so much, bro. Okay. So she's just so much like you, huh? She overcame so much. Okay. So let's recall how voters felt about Obama lecturing black men. I remember, but let's talk about it. Sorry, there's a cut up for a second. Oh.
And I just wonder for anybody who heard that, like what they thought of that.
Deeply offended. I was deeply offended. And it felt like a moment where it's like.
And I just wonder for anybody who heard that, like what they thought of that.
Deeply offended. I was deeply offended. And it felt like a moment where it's like, you N-words better get in line and do what we say. And it felt like him as the czar of the Democratic Party coming down to say, go get these N-words in line. And the general tone of it was disgusting. It was abhorrent. I don't respect it. I didn't like nothing about it. And Kamala, 2 days after that, is like, we love our black men. We have programs and things that we're rolling out for them. And she rolled out policy.
Good cop, bad cop. You know, because
I'm tired of the good cop, bad cop. I'm tired of it.
So what's funny about, they said Kamala rolled out policy after that for black men. The policy that she rolled out was so offensive, like her plans for black men and the little graphic that she did. And you go in and read more besides the graphic, but it was like, we're going to decriminalize weed so they can have jobs. Like, it was stuff like that. It was like, we're going to do these loans for black men. And it's like, okay, but you can't specifically only do these loans for black men. That would be legal. So you're not doing it specifically for black men. You have to make it available for everyone. And if you just want to have policies and say, hey, we're doing all this stuff for everybody, and this will, of course, help people everywhere, including black people, that's fine. But to tailor this thing to black men as if it was going to exclusively, help them, that's obviously dishonest. And then still the phrasing of certain things about we're going to help you buy drugs and sell drugs. By the way, I don't know how everybody feels about marijuana, but oh my gosh, I was on a walk with my sister the other day, and a car drove by and their window was down, and she like inhaled the stench. Now I wasn't breathing at the time, but she was just like coughing, and it just stayed with her for a moment. But it always like lingers. And I just remember being a kid and going to like bowling alleys and stuff like that, and being so upset, like with people were like, I guess I don't know what this is like in every state, but used to be able to like smoke in public places when I was younger. And you go to the bowling alley and come home smelling like cigarette smoke. And I just hated that, having that scent in my clothes, having that scent in my hair. Sometimes I go to some events and there's friends of mine who smoke cigars. And if I go, that smell is going to be around, and I'm going to have to wash my hair and all that other stuff. Like, it is what it is. I know what I'm getting into when I'm in those kinds of situations. But I used to think like, man, one day when I grow up, it's probably going to be a good business idea just to have places for families where you can't smoke. Like that was in my mind when I was a kid. And then they passed a law that you couldn't like smoke in public places. But now, like, you go to the grocery store, you walk down the street, sometimes you're just driving and a car is like filled with that smell, and it just still like lingers and hits and like follows you. So if your state doesn't have it legalized like everywhere or whatever, I wouldn't. You may enjoy it yourself, you may have friends or whoever who are into it, but it is just a burden on the whole society. Even if you don't do it yourself, it is not something that stays private within people doing it in their homes or something like that. It lingers and follows, and it smells, it reeks, it smells worse than skunks. And I just, thinking about Kamala Harris and her plan for black men, I just had to reiterate how much I hate that smell. I hate it so much. And I'm glad that like DeSantis was able to like, strike that down. He's like, you'll have like people doing it at the beaches, and that's gonna like be terrible for families and tourists and all kinds of different stuff. And he's like, this doesn't need to be in our constitution. He's like, if you want people to be able to go out and do the weed or whatever, he's like, then legislate it, make a law, but don't try to win some kind of ballot initiative and then it's on our constitution. Like, that's not what our state constitution is for. So anyway, I'm sorry for the rant, but you guys know me. So, seems like my Wi-Fi a bit. Trying to make sure we can at least get through the Winsome Cedars thing. I may have to, if it doesn't clear up, we may have to end it a little early. But I at least want to try to get through this Winsome Sears segment. So, yeah, these black men were deeply offended by Barack Obama, and it made him look bad. And my sister, she worked for the Trump campaign at the time during 2020, and one of the things that they did was they made an ad with a bunch of black women saying that they're not for her. And I ended up connecting her with some black women who were different influencers who I thought might do it, and they ended up doing it. And they did the video, and people were just mad about it because all these black women saying they weren't going to vote for Kamala Harris. And so people were questioning my sister. They're like, you're not going to be able to make a dent in the black woman vote. And she's like, that's not why I'm making the video. The reason why she was making the video, it was kind of to give black men a cover. Like, okay, there's black women out there who are going to support Trump. So if you want to support Trump, that's okay. And that's what you want to do. So, Trump made some gains, with different minorities, but black women, they are so loyal to the Democrat Party. Anyway, Obama was lecturing these black men for not supporting Kamala Harris. She's part black. Obama's part black. He wants these black men to support, their black candidate. Okay. So he's not supporting the black candidate, obviously, in the Winsome Sears race because she's a Republican. And I just want to remind people, because Obama's like, she understands what it's like to struggle and all this other kind of stuff. I want to play some of this Winsome Sears speech from back when they won in 2021, because it was so good at the time. It's still good. I love some of the stuff that she said. I think her story, it's so inspiring, it's so optimistic, and there's so many people who focus on grievance culture, who are obsessed with the past to make excuses for today, to try to appropriate the pain of their ancestors, which I find so disrespectful. And Winsome Sears just is like, no, so much has changed and we can do so much now, and America has such opportunity. So I'm gonna play quite a bit of it, and it's worth watching if you haven't seen it, and you haven't seen it in a while. It's good stuff. I'm going to try to jump, I think, about 1 minute and 30 seconds. This is where I want to start it.
Looking at is the American dream. The American dream. When my father came to this country, August 11th of 1963, he came at the height of the civil rights movement from Jamaica. He came, and I said to him, but it was such a bad time for us. Why did you come? And he said, because America was where the jobs and the opportunities were. And he only came with $1.75. $1.75. Took any job he could find, and he put himself through school and started his American dream. And then, yes, and now he's comfortably retired. And then he came and got me when I was 6 years old. And when I stepped on that Pan Am Boeing 737 and landed at JFK, I landed in a new world. And so let me tell you this. I am not even first generation American. When I joined the Marine Corps, I was still a Jamaican, but this country had done so much for me. I was willing to die for this country. USA! And so I say to you, victory indeed. But I say to you, there are some who want to divide us, and we must not let that happen. They would like us to believe we are back in 1963 when my father came. We can live where we want. We can eat where we want. We own the water fountains. We have had a Black president elected not once, but twice. And here I am, living proof. In case you haven't noticed, I am Black, and I have been Black all my life. But that's not what this is about. What we are going to do is we are going to now be about the business of the Commonwealth. We have things to tend to. We are going to fully fund our historically Black colleges and universities. You're going to hear from your governor-elect, Glenn Youngkin, and he's got a day one plan that I'm already tired about. Don't know how we're going to make it to day two, but he's going to make sure we keep more of our money in our pockets, because he's going to get rid of all kinds of taxes. We're going to have safer neighborhoods, safer communities, and our children are going to get a good education. Because education lifted my father out of poverty, education lifted me out of poverty, education will lift us all out of poverty, because we must have marketable skills so that our children can not just survive, but they will thrive, and they will create generational wealth. That's what this is about. I'm going to finish up. We love you too. It's a historic night. Yes, it is, but I didn't run to make history. I just wanted to leave it better than I found it.
Bars, just bar after bar. I didn't want to make history. I just wanted to leave it better, than I found it. Whatever she said. It was just, ugh. This was such a good speech. It was such a good night. It was such a good turn for the country. I was so glad because Virginia's blue. Virginia's blue. So this was an upset when Youngkin won. And I frankly people were very concerned about this race, what could happen in Virginia, especially because Trump and Doge and how they were laying off people, wanting them to retire and cut different departments and things like that, because so many people who work in DC don't live in DC, they live in Virginia. They do stuff in Virginia. Even working from home, they do stuff in Virginia, work in DC or whatever. So a lot of people who I know who work in DC, they live in Virginia. And a lot of people are just affected by that stuff. They were affected by that stuff. So even if you think, okay, well, these Democrats are maybe they're on the crazier side, but I already don't like Trump, and maybe he's not as crazy as they are, but at the same time, my job is at risk, or my husband's job is at risk, or these people that I know are going to lose their jobs, and they seem pretty gleeful about it. Not like, oh, this is a matter of this is what needs to happen, quite kind of merciless sometimes about some of the jobs and different things they're going. I know people who had government jobs and they knew their jobs were stupid and were wasteful and didn't need to exist, but they made good money. A friend of mine, he was talking to somebody who had a job like that, and he's like, I just know I'm cooked. Like, he's like, I know it. He's like, I know my job is stupid. It doesn't need to exist, but he's like, I make such good money. I don't know what I'm going to do. And can you fault people for having jobs like that if the government is stupid enough to pay them all that money and then and make a big fuss when those people are, if ever, are going to be let go? So I was pretty concerned. I'm like, man, Winsome's such a great find and stuff, and she's obviously going to run after Youngkin, but man, that's going to be a really hard race for her. But fortunately, Virginia Democrats are just really, really bad at all this stuff. So I don't know how what's going to happen. But Jay Jones, I think, should have stepped down at least so the Democrats could have looked like they had a moral high ground. I mean, if one thing about Charlie Kirk being assassinated and seeing so many responses online that were like, I don't know, justifying, celebrating, or whatever, is that, don't you guys talk about gun violence all the time? And here you are celebrating someone who was killed by gun violence. And there are Democrats who pointed that out, like, no, I'm against gun violence. I'm not going to celebrate what happened to, So there are sensible people out there. I don't want to make it seem like all Democrats are insane and have no morals or anything like that. But when Jay Jones talked about, I mean, all the things were bad. I mean, the comments about the kids were the worst. The, shoot the Republican twice line. You could say that's taken from like a joke, I think from the officers or something like that. But it's still quite a thing to say, especially after talking about how you would piss on their graves if they died, which the conversation was prompted because he was triggered that there are Republicans saying nice things about a Democrat who had died, who was moderate, who passed away. So it just gives you a peek into their mind. It is not even like it was a conversation he was having with another Democrat. Like, I think he started to try to have one with a Democrat, but he texted the wrong person and they kept going. And apparently they had a conversation offline, and then, well, not through text. And then he doubled down on text. So on top of just being like morally bankrupt, it's pretty stupid to have typed all that out. Especially with someone who's not agreeing with you. Like, it's just really bizarre. It just shows just poor judgment all the way around. And I think it would be so awful for Virginia if he ended up winning this race. So I hope they do the right thing. They should have done the right thing by now. I did, there was a debate the other night. I did like some clips. Let me see. Like, he just really tried to pivot to Donald Trump when people mentioned, and on top of the scandal with the text messages, Jay Jones was caught speeding. I think it was like what was it? Like 115 miles per hour. And he ended up having to do community service, and he did the community service working on his own campaign. Like, how can you be the top prosecutor after doing something so egregious? This person, he's going to be social justice. He's going to go after Trump. But as far as real justice being done, you should not trust this person. So let's watch a little bit of that debate.
How do you explain these incidents to the voters who expect restraint, professionalism, and accountability from the state's top law enforcement officer? And why should they trust your judgment moving forward? You have 2 minutes.
Well, I was held accountable. And several years ago, I made very grave mistakes. But I was held accountable not just by the people in my party, but by the Virginia State Police, where I had completed a very rigorous driver improvement course, paid a substantial fine, and completed the terms of the community service as outlined and approved by the New Kent Commonwealth Attorney's Office and the judge in that county. I have been held accountable. And I think Virginians deserve leaders who understand when they make mistakes and can be held accountable. But what we have here in Virginia right now is an attorney general who won't hold the president accountable. For the last 9 months, Donald Trump has run roughshod over this Commonwealth. Jason Miyares has had more than 50 opportunities to sue the administration to protect our values, our ideals, and the things we hold near and dear. Workers have been fired illegally. This government shutdown continues, and people tried to fire workers who are on furlough right now. The tariffs that have destroyed our regional economies continue to destroy people's pocketbooks here in this Commonwealth, make it hard for them to put food on their table, to keep their lights on, to pay their gas bill. Then threaten the health care that is being ripped away from people, more than 350,000. Jason Miyares and his office has not lifted a single finger. We have to hold this administration accountable, and as your attorney general, I will do just that. Jason hangs out with Donald Trump at MAGA rallies. I will see Jason Miyares and Donald Trump in court as your next attorney general, because that's what this job requires, and that's what this job needs in this moment, to protect Virginia. And not only will we protect Virginia.
Why is he going to see Jason in court? How eerie.
And hold Donald Trump accountable. We'll use this office to help address the problems that people in Virginia are talking about right now. Lowering costs. And it's exactly why we put out our lowering cost plan just a few weeks ago, to go after corporate bad actors, to go after the corporate landlords, to go after the utility monopolies that are ripping us all off. We deserve an attorney general who's going to put Virginia first and make sure that we work for ourselves and not for the president.
So just, Trump. Let me just, again, he did community service by volunteering on his own campaign. And they're still just, ignore all the bad stuff I did, just focus on the fact that Donald Trump bad. I don't like Trump. And just remember, you don't like Trump either. Trump. Jay Jones went after him a lot with the his text. Let me see if I can find a clip of it real quick. Here's a clip.
How can we trust Jay Jones to prosecute an MS-13 gang member, knowing that he asked for an innocent Virginian to get 2 bullets to his head? How could Jay Jones ever be trusted to comfort a grieving mother who has lost a child to violence, knowing that he hoped that a child as young as 2 years old would die in Jennifer's arms? How can we trust Jay Jones to ever work with our law enforcement heroes, knowing that he said to a colleague that he hoped cops would die? Why? Because in his own words, it is only through pain that change occurs. Virginians, we could do so much better. How can we trust Jay Jones?
I mean, that's very much kill shot, I think, but we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. So I hope Virginia does the right thing, but I think them, having Obama having to cut this stuff, because Obama he be endorsing some folks and he'll lose. Like he's put himself out there. Remember when I was trying to find a clip of this, or even the original post that I made about it, but I guess I could probably find that clip kind of easy. But I was trying to find a post that I made about it at the time. But he said, if you vote for Donald Trump, I will consider it an insult to my legacy. Do you guys remember when Obama said that? In 2016, I worked for the Michigan Republican Party, and there was only so much that I could tweet and post online. I had to be careful about what I posted. If it was too spicy, I couldn't post it or something like that. And not that my stuff is like wild, but I guess, a little too spicy for them. They only told me to take down one thing, but anyway, I could still, but I'm a Republican. I could post like positive things about the Republican Party and stuff like that. But I didn't want to post things that were like predictive or too braggadocious, because I didn't want egg on my face if we lost, if Trump didn't win or whatever. So I was waiting holding it all in until that moment when Trump won. So as soon as Trump won, I wilded out online for a little bit. I was in my office and there was a blanket, And so I took a picture of me with the blanket. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired of winning. I had make like posts like that. But I mentioned the Obama one. And I'm like, remember when Obama said that he would consider it an insult to his legacy if we elected Donald Trump? I hope he got the message. Like, I hope he got the message. Man, I did not like Obama. I still don't like Obama. Anyway, I want to move on. Let me just briefly, I guess, talk about the IVF stuff. So Donald Trump is doing a lot to try to make sure that drug prices are lower. And he made an announcement yesterday, and he said that the IVF drugs prices were going to go down. It's one of the reasons why they're so expensive. And Kennedy, also, made some comments. I don't know how many things he was talking about were true, but as far as different statistics and about health and so on. But he did turn to Trump and say, you said the other day, like, you didn't know if you could get into heaven. He's like, but you're doing the Lord's work, which a lot of pro-life people found to be interesting, because there are a lot of pro-life people who do not support IVF. And I know it's controversial, because I know people who've used it and have had children through IVF. So it's one of the reasons why it's controversial to people, but but there's real ethical issues with it, and it has the potential of killing more children than abortion does if you are of the mind that life does begin at conception. Like, I would love to talk to Katie Bricks about this, because she would probably say that life begins at conception. It's like, okay, well, what about the life of a child that is, like, you're gonna, in the smallest form, enough to fit in a petri dish or whatever, and they genetically test that child, and they find that maybe it could have blindness, and they're like, okay, well, we don't want that child. And there is a geneticist who, like, does IVF stuff, who's been making the case that this is the future, like, people testing their children, and what if we could cure blindness? Is like, you're not talking about curing blindness, you're talking about making children who might be blind and then not allowing them to continue living. Like, that's what you're talking about. Like, you're not curing people from blindness. You're not even, like, preventing people who might be blind from living. You're just like letting them die or killing them yourself. So when you have situations like that, or parents might want not to implant one of their children because they don't like what sex they are, or they made too many embryos and they didn't want to implant that many, so they keep freezing the others, or they donate them to science, or maybe they implant 2 children and one of the eggs splits and now they have 3 children, but they really only wanted 1, so they have a selective reduction and they abort 2 of the children. Like, there's a lot of ethical complications and things that are involved in that industry, including surrogacy. And I saw 3 gay men who had used surrogacy to have a child. So this is a throuple who, used IVF and surrogacy and stuff, and now they have a child. There's sexual predators who've been able to get children through IVF because they don't have restraints on them as much as, like, an adoption agency or something like that would. So there's all kinds of different issues that I don't know if people have broken down and explained to Trump about, because he didn't really know. I mean, I'm sure he knew people who kind of maybe used fertility treatments and stuff, but I don't think anyone's kind of sat him down and was like, sir, you do realize that if life begins at conception, that means that all these children who are frozen or who never get implanted, that they are lives lost. Like, you understand that? So they keep like, this is pro-life because we're having kids, you're helping people have kids. And I think to have children is a beautiful thing, and I it's tragic when I guess that's not in the cards for some people, whether they can't have them or I want to have kids someday, but I'm not a married woman. So I don't believe that, you should go to this, maybe controversial to some people, like I don't believe that you should purposely create a situation where you're not going to have the mother and the father raise the child. Um, so getting artificially inseminated, or um, I don't know, finding a donor and implanting them. I don't think that women should do that. I don't think men should do that. I just think that's incredibly a cruel way to start off a child's life. And there's a lot that parents are expected to give and do for their children, and I don't believe that um you should take something like that from a child for your own purposes, and your own desires, just so you can have one. I mean, there's plenty of children who need love when it comes to adoption, even though there's a waiting list for that. But there are people you could foster. I understand people want to genetically have their own children, but if you can understand people wanting to genetically have their own children, certainly you can understand the need and desire that children have to be united with their genetic parents. And that's, not always going to be the case. I just mentioned adoption. There are situations where or even like with fostering, like the goal of the foster care is to reunify the families. Like, you'll be a ward of the state. They may remove the child because maybe the mother's on drugs, maybe there's some kind of dangerous situation, whatever, but their goal is to fix that situation. And when they can put the children back in the hands of the parents, that they will, but sometimes that doesn't work out and those children are adopted with a new family. So it may be that that's not a good situation, or the best situation, or a plausible situation for the children to be with their parents. But when you purposely design a motherless or a fatherless life for that child, I don't believe that's right. So the US is like kind of the wild, wild west when it comes to that industry. And I don't think he's knowingly doing something that is wrong. I think he feels like more babies, a good thing, And I think that's how most people feel about it, and haven't really contemplating a lot of like ethical things that go along with it. Because I mean, I didn't really think about it. I think I heard like Lila Rose and some other people start talking about it, and then I just started researching it. And I'm no, like, I don't know, expert on the topic, but yeah, I can understand why it's an issue. And what really gets me though is they're like, our birth rate, all this, we're not meeting our replacement rate. That's what one of the things that Kennedy mentioned. I'm like, okay, what are y'all going to do about the abortion pill? Like, we could stop killing our children. Attack abortion. That's 1 million children who are being killed every year. We could always stop that. And that would mean a heck of a lot more babies would be born. If you're so concerned about the replacement rate. And it is concerning. And if you're like, oh, we need more babies. Sure. But there is an entire industry where we're killing them. And Kennedy, I haven't heard him say a lot of pro-choice stuff lately, but when he's on the campaign trail, he defended like abortion at any time, because he didn't believe that you should tell a woman that she can't do it. So, if you're going to justify abortion at like 30 weeks or whatever, just because a woman wants one, you say, well, nobody does that. Some people do. Some people don't find out they're pregnant till real late, or circumstances, that reasons why women might want to abort early. Sometimes they don't manifest until later in the pregnancy. So it's not a lot, granted, compared to the number of people who usually do it earlier, but it does happen. They're not all like tragic, your baby won't live outside of the womb situation, So I just wonder why has anyone had a conversation with him about it? I mean, JD Vance is a Catholic, he's the vice president, is he kind of aware where the church is standing on that? And then like the Southern Baptist Association, I think, came out against like IVF and stuff too. I mean, there's more people kind of looking into it from a religious standpoint, and it's like, if we're made in the image of God, and if life begins at conception, that goes for all the children who are made outside of the womb. They're not supposed to be made outside of the womb. That's something that we are doing to these children and putting them in an environment they were never meant to be in. But they're still alive, and we're still accountable for those lives. So I know that's not the most popular opinion, but it's just something I think people should consider. Last thing I want to mention before I let you guys go, I want to watch this video with Mark Ruffalo talking about capitalism. Mind you, I think he looks a little crazy. And Mark Ruffalo, by the way, side note, has said some like wild anti-Israel, like borderline, like anti-Semitic stuff on his Twitter and other stuff like that. But he's a real crazy leftist.
What do we do to make life better for everybody? We certainly have enough. I mean, we just created the most number of billionaires in the history of the world. You know, we have enough. We could do this, but it's going to take some reimagining of what America is, what our economic system is. What's clear is it's not working and it's not sustainable.
Actually, when our founding fathers set this up, they had the national motto of e pluribus unum, out of many one.
Yes.
And we've never achieved that.
No.
There's a long time we didn't even vaguely even strive for that. But we can still strive.
The vision of America, the promise of America, we still have that. We have that promise in our DNA. Someone slipped that in there, which creates a possibility for it, right? That's like the moment we're in right now. It's physics. Things have got to come to a point where there's so much movement. It's chaotic. It's chaotic. It's chaotic. Boom, up. Something new comes out of it. Water to steam. There's no other way to actually change. And that's painful. It's like giving birth. I mean, birth is painful. It's dark. We don't know. It's scary. Will it ever end, you know?
Soul Boom hit the podcast for gosh, I can't think of Dwight is his character's name on The Office. I can't think what his real name is, but Mark Ruffalo, there's other videos that I've played and seen of him like protesting, talking about the billionaires and how they control the world and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, sir, how rich are you? How much did you get paid to do the Avengers films? How much did you get paid? How much did those movies make? How much did those tickets cost families? Rainn Wilson, thank you. Thank you. I knew it was like different sounding, but thank you, Rainn Wilson. How much money did you guys make from The Office? Like, I understand they have teams and other people who get a piece of their pies and stuff too, but like they're not coal miners. They're not engineers. They're not school bus drivers. They're professional pretenders. Professional pretenders angry about what? Jeff Bezos, who you cannot like him. You cannot like that he spent so much money on his lavish weddings and all that other kind of stuff. But he saw a need for people, provided, opportunities for people to get their products, did something in an innovative new way, just did it better than other folks, Elon Musk, brilliant guy, does a lot of stuff. And we were talking about, I was out on a walk with my sister earlier today, and we saw one of those cyber trucks, and it was black with like red detailing. And she was going on and on about how they just look like the kind of cars that you would draw as a kid when it was like really, really blocky and boxy. And then they just took that idea, and now it's just a car that people drive for like status and power, and it's but of course he does his rockets and other things, and PayPal and whatnot. So it's just and he bought Twitter too, so people could have a voice. It used to be, Jack Dorsey and stuff who had Twitter, but Elon ended up taking it over because liberals like shut them out. Like Bernie was complaining because all these right-wing people own the media now. One, that's not even true, but even what we have, like Elon had bought Twitter. It wasn't like a profitable thing. Had to find ways to make revenue. I'm not sure if it's even profitable now, but they fired a lot of people. They did a lot of work, But all started like dominoing after they locked the Babylon Bee out for saying that Rachel Levin was a man, like, and he is a man. So, Mark Ruffalo, he just is so entitled to me. Like, I've never watched a film and been like, that movie is so much better because Mark Ruffalo was in it. Never, not once, not one single role. Maybe the closest I would get to that is 13 going on 30. Maybe. But I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I'm just saying he's very meh. I just like, I don't think he's better than like, was it Ed Norton who's the Hulk before him? He's not a better actor than Ed, like. And they're just like, these billionaires, like Bernie Sanders. He used to say millionaires and billionaires. Okay, but then he became a millionaire and he's like, these billionaires. Like, we didn't forget what you used to say, Bernie. Like, how much money do these people sit on? Do they live on a small piece of land in a little cottage that costs nothing, living off of the I don't know, plants that they plant themselves? Like, they participate in the society of capitalism and reap the rewards of it. You could go join a commune if you want to. You could start your own little thing. You could just start a village and start paying for a ton of people's bills if you want to, but you don't have to reimagine the country. You could do that crap yourself. You could get a pool of people together and pay each other's medical bills, or Mark Ruffalo could just do it himself out of the kindness of his heart. Charity. It's just champagne liberal problems, champagne ideas, because people who are really struggling in the world, they want to find out how they can buy their mom a house. You hear all these stories about rappers who made it or singers who made it, and they're like, oh, one of the first things I'm going to do is buy my mother a house, because they remember what it was like to be poor. And live in that little tiny house, and they see their parents work hard and they want to provide for them. And that, is a good dream to have, and to grow up even struggling to want to achieve something like that. But, and then they appreciate when they have it. And then people like 50 Cent don't want the government to take more than 50% of his money. And you have people like Cardi B, like, what is y'all doing with my money? Because they earned that stuff. They produce a product that people want, and they're like, why are people taking it? I earned this. I should be able to spend it how I want it. And I see you guys mismanaging stuff. People would not like a socialist or communist sort of system. They wouldn't. People don't like when they can't do well with capitalism. And there's a lot of people who they fall in bad times, but sometimes people just don't have the drive, but Mark Ruffalo, I just think it's so funny when rich men want to trash on other rich men as if they aren't one of the rich men. I know being a billionaire is kind of in a different world than being a millionaire. Some people would say after you start making millions, it's easy to upscale that. I don't know, but I'll have to let you know when I get to 1 million, because I ain't there yet. But he just drives me crazy. Anyway. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. You guys go to blackteeners.com, check out different content website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, you guys can leave a donation on the website, because it does cost to stream, run the site, all that good stuff. If you guys can support it, very much appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can also sign up for that painting class. That we're going to do one online and we're going to do one in person. So go ahead and sign up for either one of those if you're interested in that. And there's also a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube to my book, Bigger. And it is a heartwarming story. It's a rhyming picture book about a baby dinosaur who wants to be bigger. And I'm very proud of it. So go ahead and pick up your copy. And you can get one signed from me. Anyway, thank you guys. Have a blessed weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Okay. But anyway, God bless you. I'll see you Monday.